Hello, this is Richard from Expedition Tracking, and today I'm going to show you how to use your administration account to set up and administer your own events and trackers. This video is an update to ones we produced earlier in the year because we've added some new functionality. So at the moment this is current as of November 2019. Okay. You will have been given an email that has got a login URL. It should be racedrone.net/admin. And when you log in, you will use your credentials and log into the dashboard. Okay, and you're presented with three options across here. First of all is site admin. The only thing that's useful for is resetting your password. And you can just do that by clicking on here. It'll ask you for a new password and then you can save it again. The next one is the user manager. When we sent you your trackers, we will have put assigned them each a number. For example, 843456. Your tracker will very often have a little label on the back telling you what number it is if we've sent you more than one. And you'll just need to bear those in mind when you come to set up your event and add them to them. You don't have to add all of your trackers to an event that you set up. You can just add one, two, or all of them. But the useful thing you can do here within User Manager is rename them. So right now these have got a default name. So if I go in and choose one of these by clicking the Edit button, which is here, you'll see it comes up with a few details. So instead of being called Tracker 846, I'm going to call this Tracker Group 1. And then I could go down and save it. You'll note there are some other items in here which are really more used for events rather than things like Duke of Edinburgh. You can change the country flags and various other details in here. This isn't applicable in the mobile phone network. You can also add a profile picture which would show up on the map. If you want to take a photo of a particular group, then that would be associated with this there. For now, I'm just going to leave it as changing it to Group 1. I'm going to change this one to be Group 2. And I'll leave the other two at default. Note their username is still trackers 846, 845, 843, 844. It's just the label I've changed. And you can change this label as often as you want, before, during, or after an event, whenever you wish. Okay, so that's gone through Site Admin and User Manager. The only other area, and the most important one, is your Events Manager. So from here, this is where you're going to set up your own events. So right now, all you want to do is load into here and choose Add Event. Okay, first thing to say is at the very top here, this particular default map, when it's loaded, is for importing events that are KML files. What are KML files? They're ones which are used by Google Earth or Google Maps. The vast majority of you are more likely to be using GPX files, which are created by the EDV application or OS maps or memory maps, something along those lines. So this file, use this default page if you want to import KML files. If you want to import GPX files, you'll click here and I'll show you that in a minute. The important thing to say is by the end of 2019 we will have actually combined these two forms into one, so this video will be superseded and you'll just get one default form which is capable of importing both GPX files and KML files, so you'll no longer need to choose between them. For now I'm going to click on this option here because more often than not the vast majority of you will import GPX files. Okay, so it's changed now to say use this form to import GPX files. If you wanted to change back, you can click there. Right, so I'm going to put a name in here. The name I'm going to choose is Challenge UK. Okay, Challenge UK. And if you wanted to add a password, you can put one in there. So you can add some random password in there if you wanted to. For now, I'm just going to delete that out. Everything else you can more or less leave at the default setting apart from the few items I will go through in a minute. So I'll take you through what each one of these means, but if you don't understand it for any reason, leave them at the default. Checkpoint radius, that sounds a little bit complicated. This is only used on timed events like running races, cycling events and things like that, and that is used to detect when your tracker enters the radius of a particular checkpoint, and when it does, the time that it records within that radius will be the time it reached the checkpoint. Give you an example. Let's say you were running out in the Peak District and you were trying to reach somewhere in Castleton at a particular point, let's say the top of a hill. And when you got to the top of that hill, when you got within a 250-meter radius of it, and the tracker sent its next update, it would then put an entry in the leaderboard table. So it would say 12:42 and 56 seconds, and that would then be used as a timing or leaderboard option. The vast majority of you are not going to be using that function. It's only people who are really interested in races who will. So leave that as default unless you understand it otherwise. For those of you who will use it, just make sure you set the radius to something appropriate based on the speed that your trackers will be travelling. So if you're walking, then 100 or 150 metres, 250 metres is fine. If you're running or cycling, you might want to widen that radius to ensure that your tracker sends an update while it's within it. If, of course, you're entering with motorsport, then you want to make that radius considerably wider, perhaps 1,000 metres or a kilometre, to ensure that the trackers do send an update in that time. Okay, these are just descriptions. They're not used anywhere on the tracking map. Again, likewise, distance, it isn't actually used for anything on the tracking map, so you can leave that as default. Event location, if you want for your own interest, you could put this is going to be in the Peak District. And the event type, this is an important one. It's set as default to private. This means that your event will not show up in the publicly listed events. So the best thing to do is leave that as private unless you specifically want your event to show up in public. But remember, if you have set a password, then the people, even if they can see it in the list of events, won't be able to access it without that password. The next thing is important, the start date and end date. So I need to set a span. So I'm going to choose today, which is the 7th of November for the start, and I'm going to choose this to end on Sunday the 10th. By doing this, it means that the trackers will only appear on the tracking map within that date span. So if you accidentally end the expedition a day early, the trackers won't appear and you'd have to come back in and edit that setting and change it to the 11th or something else. Start time and end time of your event. This is important for timed events because it'll be used to calculate times that you reach checkpoints and things like that. But for DV, this isn't important, so you can leave this set to the default, which is 8 in the morning through till 12 o'clock at night. Emergency mobiles, these are important, so I'm going to put a telephone number in here. These you can have up to 3. Please put 44 in front of it, which is the country code. That's assuming you're in the UK. If you're watching this from outside the UK and your mobile number is based from somewhere else, Spain, whatever, you would put 34. So put 44, drop the leading 0, and then put the rest of the number. And these are the telephone numbers that would receive a text message in the event that somebody were to press the SOS button on the front of the trackers. Okay, so you can leave those empty if you wish or add them. There's no requirement to put them in. Again, this you can leave at default. Unless you want to add a logo onto the map, I'd suggest leave that empty too. And finally, the bit you probably are interested in is the map types that we're going to be able to use. So most of you will want to default as standard, probably to the terrain map or to the Ordnance Survey mapping. If you've paid for the Ordnance Survey mapping, that will be available to you. And in this case, I'm going to leave this as the terrain map as standard. I'm going to leave the URL as PHP. You can change it to something called Java, which is a slightly different map style. But again, if you don't understand what that is, please leave it as default to PHP. The rest of the items, please leave all those as default. Again, leave these as default. No need to create a distance table unless you know what that's for. Leaderboards are only for races. There's quite a few of these features really are only applicable to races and not applicable to D&V. If you do want to understand a little more about the more sophisticated features for timing cycling and racing events, come back to me and we'll go through a personal demonstration on how all of these particular features work. If in doubt, all you really need to do is when you create your event, put a name in, choose your start date and end date, put in a mobile telephone number, and finally, how often do you want the map to update? And most people will usually have that set to update every 1 minute or every 2 minutes. And that is really all you need to worry about for now. Leave this little bit at the bottom unless you're using the Java URLs, in which case you can activate which types of map you wish to appear. But if you're just using the standard default PHP maps, then leave those as they are. So once I've done that, I've only got one final step to do, and that is of course to add the GPX files themselves. So I'm going to click upload route here, and let's go onto the desktop, and I've saved a couple here now. I've got ultra marathon, marathon and half marathon, and if I hold down the shift key or hold down the control key, I've selected all three of those items. And let me go there. Okay, that's now been saved and they've been uploaded. Once that's been done, all you need to do is click on Save Event. Okay, and now in Events Manager, you'll see we've got a brand new event called Challenge UK. And there's the start date, there's the end date, it's in the Peak District. And if I wanted to delete that event, I can do so by clicking that button. One thing you'll notice here important, it says how many participants are in there. At the moment there's 0, and that's because we haven't added any of the trackers to the event. So the final important piece of the puzzle, let's go back into the event and scroll down to the very bottom, and there's a little button here which says add a single competitor. Let's pick a race number. I'm just going to choose 1, and remember the trackers that we have available to us were 843, 844, 845 and 846. If you type the first few digits of those, you will see they appear there, 843. So only the ones which you own will be available to see in the list. So I'll choose 843, and there it is there. I'm just going to click add. That one's been added. I'm going to have number 2 as 844. Add that one. Add number 3 as 845. And the last one, 846. I'll add that one. Now if I scroll to the very bottom, you will see that all of those have appeared there. And remember, I renamed those to Group 1 and Group 2. And that is now fully set up and ready to go. So if we were to just go back into the dashboard again, into your event manager, you'll now see we've got 4 participants there. So that means that event is all ready to go. And this is, if you just click on this URL, this will take you into your tracking link. So you would copy and paste this URL here, which is racedrone.net Challenge UK, and these are the 4 trackers I've just added, and this is your event. So you'll notice I added 3 different routes, and if I click on this little feature here, you'll see that there are 3 routes all there, and if I remove them all, I can individually add just the half marathon. I can remove that one and add just the marathon. I can remove that one and just add the ultra, so you can just view one specific one if you wish. So I'll leave all 3 of them on there. And finally, you'll see here are the participants, and when data starts to be sent by the trackers, those little lights will change to green or one of the other colours which indicate one of the statuses at the top. And really that is all there is to setting up one of your own events. By all means, get in contact with us if you're struggling with any of that, and of course we're always happy to assist or set up your events anytime on your behalf. Hopefully you found that very useful. We will be providing another update later on in the year, or the beginning of 2020, with some of the new and exciting features that we've got to deliver to you then. So that's it for now. All the best for your tracking, and we'll look forward to speaking to you soon.